Welcome to another video by Lame Creations, Log Analysis Made Easy. This is our video segment on ITSI. We're going to be covering the various features of ITSI. This one will be on KPIs. I went back and forth whether you do KPIs, whether you do services first. We're going to do KPIs first, but you could go either way. But in order to do that, I'm going to briefly cover services. And so here's a nice little video, a little image that Splunk has put together of a service. They've got Buttercup Store. Everybody who's ever done Splunk training knows about Buttercup Games, Buttercup Store, and it has a mobile app. They do sales, they have support, they have web store, and they have web store sales. And each of these, this is their service. These are sub-services, and then there might be some middleware, and that middleware supports the mobile app and the web store. Then there's some external authentication services, and this database supports the middleware, and the middleware supports the mobile app and the web store. Well, that's all cool and dandy. The services, green, red, yellow. What makes that service change its color? The building block of a service is KPIs. It's the things that measure how healthy is a service. You can make anything you want to a KPI. Some things make more sense than others. And so when you're building your system to monitor, it's important that you think about what do you want to monitor? What are you looking for? How much value are you giving it? Because you can have multiple KPIs or a single KPI affect the score of a service. And then you can create KPIs that have almost no value whatsoever to the service. And you got to decide, do I really want them in there or do I not? So let's give a real life example that people can hopefully understand, and it's not Buttercup Games. Let's talk about FedEx. This was one that was given to me when I was in business school learning about services. FedEx is a global company that its job is to deliver packages from point A to point B. That is their service. And there are a lot of pieces that go involved with that. They need to take the package from the customer, how long it takes for them to actually allow a customer to give the package over. There could be you could have a lot of, no joke, red tape, a lot of different things in there that could keep that package from ever being delivered to FedEx. Then FedEx finally procures the package. Maybe they put into a chute down to where all the other packages are, where they get sorted. They head out to different trucks. They go out to the airport. The airport flies them to their respective locations. Then they get delivered to the FedEx warehouse, where they're put back on trucks again and sent out. And based off traffic and how many packages the driver has, each one of those points, if they say, we're going to take this package and we're going to deliver it in 3 days, each time that one of those things I mentioned, the conveyor belt, the packaging, the airline, the getting it to the airline, the getting it to the trucks breaking down, the traffic, too many deliveries for the truck driver to get everywhere. Each of those is going to affect the ability to meet that goal of a healthy service, which is to be able to deliver packages within 3 days. And so each one of those things could be a KPI. How long does it take for the package to leave the sales rep's hands and get down to the warehouse? How long does it spend in transit? And so all these things are going to affect. And just because one KPI is off doesn't mean that the service is going to fail. Hopefully there's some slack built into it and they're not running on such a strict schedule, but that's the concept of a KPI. KPIs are the values that help determine whether or not you've got a healthy environment, healthy service. So let's go build the most, I don't have anything set here. We're going to do a bonus video of me setting up Splunk TA for Nix on this machine here. And what we're going to do, we'll use that to monitor the health of my Splunk environment. But for now, I don't even have that. So I'm going to make my machine make a heartbeat. Basically, the concept is I'm going to make this thing beep every minute. It's going to create an alert and it's going to go off every minute. And it will just keep going off every minute indefinitely. And I'm going to monitor that. And if it gets out, if for some reason it's not performing every minute, that means the KPI might be out of whack. And what KPI does that make? It doesn't matter. The point is that you just need to understand what makes KPIs. And that's some form of Splunk information query logs that you can use. So I'm going to make my own. I'm going to go make results, and I'm going to eval foo equals bar. And I'm just going to write table time foo. Okay, then I'm going to write the word collect. Let's actually make sure I have an index. So let's go put this in. Excuse me, duplicate tab. We're going to make an index so I have it. And we're just going to call it YouTube. So I'm going to go indexes, index. We're going to make our own index here called YouTube. There's my YouTube index. And now we're going to index equals YouTube, source equals heartbeat example. So when I run that, it now wrote that into an index called bar. And so basically, just so you can see that, if I go duplicate tab, take the collect out of there, I have a log that I just created. And I'm going to set this to heartbeat, meaning it beat, like when you see the monitor, it beats every so many seconds. I'm going to save this as a report. And this is lame heartbeat example for YouTube to create my very first KPI. Cool, we'll leave it as that. Permissions, leave it at the app level, read, write. And then we're going to edit, and we're going to set a schedule. I'm going to schedule this to run on a cron schedule, and it's going to run */1. That, if I have correct, should mean it'll run every minute on the minute. Time range 15. There's no real matter about the time range there, but we're just going to have that run every minute. And so when I come back in a few minutes, I will have a bunch of these. It'll just keep writing foo, bar, 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 bar. And so I'm just going to have a log that's going to run every minute. And I'm just going to check in and I'm going to make my KPI and say, hey, this should be firing off every minute. And we're just going to validate that it is. And so I'm going to pause the video, come back in a few minutes when we actually have some logs so I can then walk us through getting the KPI part. All right, and we're back, and now I have 17 events. It wouldn't have hurt to let it run even longer, but it's going to work. And I can see that I've got, basically, they run every minute. Boom, 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 boom. And so I've got myself a heartbeat, and the reason we call it a heartbeat is if I were to change this to Sparkline chart, Sparkline. Anyway, give me 1 second. It's annoying me that I can't remember that query. It is chart Sparkline count. If I go look over the last 15 minutes, I shrink that. There's a heartbeat. Boom, 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 etc. There's a little heartbeat. Anyway, so that's why we call it heartbeat. All right, so now we got our little heartbeat. What do we do? Come into here, we're going to configure, and we're going to go do services. I know this is about KPIs, but it's the KPIs that are building structure for the service. We're going to build a service, and we'll come back and cover more on services next time. But we're going to do KPIs here. I have no services. I'm going to create a service. And I'm going to call it lame YouTube service. I don't need to put service on there. The demo of a KPI in a service. We'll leave it as the global team. We could build pre-built KPIs. These don't make any sense for what I'm doing, but you can see CPU utilization, bunch of stuff here. I'm going to manually add a service content. I'm going to hit create. And I'm going to do KPIs. I'm going to make a new KPI. I'm going to call it generic. I could use some of the ones they've already got. I'm not going to. I'm just going to make a generic KPI. We're going to call this my heartbeat. Event, make results, saved search that makes a heartbeat log. Okay, hit next. We're just going to take that very query we ran. It's not there. I always recommend writing queries here. Index equals YouTube. Okay. We're going to flip, and then we want a threshold field. So I usually just do this. Stats count. That gives me a value. Count. So what I want is just the number of these logs going off. Stats count. We don't need to worry about time. Time is going to be resolved later on. This is just to get, so we're just going to see, is this firing off? The easiest way to do that is just do a count. How many have fired off? And the threshold field, I want to know how many am I expecting to fire off in a given threshold, in a given period. That's my threshold, and so it's going to be that field. So I wanted to call it out. I have found I have better success if I call out the field that I need to see it in this query and down here. So hit next. We don't need to split by entities. We'll deal with entities on another thing. There are no entities here. We're keeping it simple. Next. We want this KPI to run every 5 minutes. I could have it run every minute if I want, every 15 minutes. I want it every 5. I'm just going to do, should we do it? We could do an average. That would be the average amount of times we see it in a 5-minute period. That would work. Or the count, or the distinct count. Let's just do count. Actually, we'll do average. We'll do average. Last 5 minutes. That means how far back do we want to look? So we're going to run every 5 minutes, look back 5 minutes. What are we going to do if there's no values in there? I'm going to call it 0. I could stick my own null value in there, and I could give my own threshold. We'll cover thresholds later. So we're just going to say custom value, and we're going to put 0. So if it can't find any results, it's going to put a 0. So every 5 minutes, take the average of count. Remember, counts that backfield there as a service aggregate value over the last 5 minutes. Fill gaps in data with a custom value of 0. And I can, at any time, I can just hit this and click it, run and search, and it'll actually tell me if the query is working. I should see some results. And I see some results. So that's a good sign. So we're good there. We hit next. Unit, do I want to have a unit of measurement there? You don't need this. Monitoring lag, we don't need to worry about that. We'll close that so it's not in the way. So we just leave it at default. And sure, let's backfill. Backfill is going to go grab all the data that I have. I don't even have close to that. We're going to go Sure, we'll backfill 7 days, not that there's 7 days worth of data. Anyway, we'll hit next. If this works right, we should have data. I hate when it does that. All right, you make some mistakes, you learn. All right, it did not like that stats. No problem. There's ways around that. We're just going to leave, go straight into foo. We're just going to look at the value foo, which is bar, and so we're just going to basically just count it. So it's no problem. We just go next here. We change that to foo. This stays the same. And instead of doing, which we did average, we're going to do count. And now count is just going to count up how many times it sees foo. Same principle, that'll still work. So I hit next, I hit next, nothing else changed, backfill last 7 days. Now when I come here waiting for data, there's my little line. And so I can then do some thresholding and all sorts of stuff. So we're going to go hit finish. It's going to backfill that whole thing. And so here's my query. It's broken down. Here's my search. Here's my threshold field. And if I want to change them, I can hit edit. We can do this not doing any entities. Here's what the calculation means. Any units, backfill. We come in here and we do a thresholding. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a threshold. And we're going to put high. And we're going to add another threshold. And we're going to call it high as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this threshold and put it, if it's above 7, that means if the heartbeat gets really high. And this threshold, we're going to move down to say 3. Oops, that went the wrong way. So this is going to be 7. Move this to 7. Let's go move it to 2. We're going to put a green in there, normal. And that's going to be just play around with this, get that back there. We're going to make that normal. Anything above 2 is normal. And then we're going to put another threshold in. There we go. Your 7. And you're normal. You're 0. Flip this to severe. Come on, you can do this. There we go. Anything above 2 is green, and we're going to move that to 7. There we go. Okay, so basically we've set our operating range. If it's lower than 2, so basically the way you read this, 0 to 2 would be a high severity. 2 to 7 would be normal, and above 7 is critical. And if we do that, that's our severity. We can see how this thing's operating. And yeah, that's basically it. So we're going to hit save. Do you want to enable lame YouTube? Yes, I do. Save and enable. And I have my KPI. So I can come in here if I had entities, but there's my KPI. I click the heartbeat and get the information. I can add a new KPI if I want to and just keep adding KPIs. So now that I've put that into practice and I've hit save, what else can I do with it? We're going to come in here and we're going to add, we're going to talk about entities, we're going to talk about service dependencies. That'll be our very next video on services. We can mess around with some of the settings. Not much here to deal with right yet. Here, if you have multiple dependent KPIs, so if you put multiple KPIs, you can say how much each one weighs. That'll make more sense as we add more KPIs. I'll get there, but we can mess with that. For now, we want to keep it simple. We can do predictive analytics, and that's going to allow me to choose what's going to occur um, in my KPI. And so I can do a bunch of, you can do anomaly detection, do predictions, things like that. Um, yeah, and so here with this KPI, I think I'm gonna have to do a whole other video on it because I've already spent enough time on this one alone. But we can do time policies, adapt and adaptive thresholding, KPI alerting. So for example, if I want things to go to a ticketing system, I can just click this and what's going to happen, trigger a notable event for all KPI severity changes or trigger notable for specific changes. Right now, if it moves from green to red or green to high or high, whatever the case, it will kick off a notable. That notable is the ticket triage. We'll talk about that, but that's how it's done. Adaptive thresholding, we have to enable. We have to go put some of the other tools on here, but the concept is we can change based off time. So we can have KPIs. Um, you want to run this a little later, but basically the concept would be you can choose based off time of the year, time of the month, so on the weekends I'm going to, 5 is good during the weekday, but during the weekends I want a 7 or a 4, whatever the case may be. You can change it based off the time of day. So there's a lot of options on how to change things, but in its most basic format, you're just going to, we'll just walk and make this the same KPI all over again, then we just won't save it. I'm going to do a new KPI. I'm going to name it some KPI. We do a query. So in my case, it's index equals YouTube, source equals heartbeat. What was that called? Heartbeat example. Very simple heartbeat example. We're going to grab the foo field that we made in there because we're just going to count how many instances of foo do we have. And you do that, leave that alone. And we're going to do count of foo. We don't want null values, so we're going to assign a null value. I'm going to give it a 0, hit next. Everything else stays the same. We're not changing units. I can turn on backfill. In this case, I don't want backfill. And we're going to see the KPI come in. There we go. Anyway, I'm not going to hit finish because I don't want to save it. I'm going to hit cancel. Then I come down here. Anything I've changed, I want to hit save. Hit save. All right, now we're going to go look at our configuration. I'm going to go look at services. Should have my service there. YouTube. It's clicked as enabled. So with it being enabled, I'm going to have a new dashboard showing up. If I come here to Service Analyzer, Default Analyzer, this is the default page that I've been coming to and it's always blank. I'm now going to be able to see my service. And there's my service. It's all green and my heartbeat. This is cool. I don't know why this is the default. This is not what I like. I actually like this one, tree view. And so here's my service. If I had, we're going to put some dependencies on here so you'll see them draw out. But I can see here's my KPI by clicking on it. And I can actually click that. I can actually see data. So if there were entities, entities are typically think of as machines, IP addresses, whatever, that are contributing to your score. to your KPIs, they'll show up here. And so this is the overall KPI, and this is each entity's KPI score. We don't have an entity KPI score, so it's not going to happen. But when I go into putting the Splunk Unix app on here, we'll actually start getting some KPIs. So, and if worst case, I'll do an event gen or something so that we can have multiple entities contributing scores. Anyway, so with that being the case, I will end this video and we'll come back the next video and talk about services. I hope this was helpful. I hope this helps you move from being a lame analyst to a Splunk ninja. Hope you keep coming back for my videos. I have lots of videos freely available to everyone. If you really like this and you want to see me continue to grow and expand this channel, please like and subscribe down below. And even more helpful, come be a member. We have 2 membership levels. You'll get access to all my videos early if you do that. I also have specialized training for system administration, for hunting. I'm going to keep rolling those out. I'm going to offer those as online courses, but it's cheaper to have a subscription. And it's really, I'm putting that stuff together because I want to move this stuff out to the cloud. I talk about, I can't put up a ITSI indexer cluster. I don't have the resources to go do that. And so I want to be able to move out to the cloud and use that. And anyway, so that's what you guys would be helping me by joining as a member down below. Anyway, if you find this, if nothing else, pass this on to your friends. Let me know down below in the comments below. Join my Discord. Give me comments. Let me know what you want to see. If there's any videos you want me to create, or you have any questions for me, I'm always willing to reach out and help others. Anyway, hope you keep coming back and hope these videos are helpful.